Welcome to Brain Dead Mechanic. Let me start off this episode by saying thank you to those of you that subscribed, and thank you for those of you who have liked this content. I also want to give a word of caution. You can take my advice, however, I am in no way responsible for any kind of mishaps or anything that may happen to you or your vehicles. My advice is free for the giving. Following direction is on you, and the performance of the work is on you. Feel free to rewind my videos, pause them, and reflect. Other than that, let's get started. Today, I have an extra special guest. You've seen him in the intro, but you don't know his name. He is the guy that stands and holds the window. He is the guy that holds your light. He is the one that helps you jack the car. His name is William. That is my oldest boy. I figured I'd introduce him into this episode because, well, we're going to need a little bit of help. And we're going to be covering today your basic routine vehicle maintenance, right, Will? He doesn't say much. I don't think he likes the way his voice sounds. Now, we still have Nissan Sally shining like she always has. We did a few episodes in the past where we detailed the interior and we covered this car's paint. She is 17 years old. Now we're going to get into what to do if you're getting ready to maintain your vehicle. We're going to cover the procedures that are specific to this vehicle. Remember, all cars are not the same. Read your owner's manual. Call your manufacturer. Talk to your service advisor or dealer tech. It's free. You can get printouts of service procedures. You can get, locations of certain items out of your owner's manual. You can get fluid types and service intervals. How many miles should it be when you change these fluids? For us, we're going to go off of Nissan Sally's schedule. She doesn't seem to have one. The owner's manual's missing.
So Google is
you really can't trust Google these days. So I contacted a couple friends of mine in the automotive business, branched out to a Nissan dealer, and they gave me the rundown. So I'm going to pass that along to you. William, what is the first thing we should do whenever we go to buy a used car or if we go to maintain the car? The first thing you do when you do a health checkup is?
Well, you always want to research it.
Do your research.
Test drive it.
And test drive it. The third thing you want to do is you want to hook up your scanner, correct? And look for any kind of temporary DTCs, which are diagnostic trouble codes, or permanent DTCs, which are hard diagnostic trouble codes, which are the ones that make your check engine light come on.
Now, the OBD ports may vary depending on the year, make, and model of the vehicle.
Absolutely. He is correct. On most vehicles, like Nissan Sally here, they're on the driver's side lower portion of the dash. I will show you where. Some cars hide them behind the ashtray. Some cars hide them in the center console. Every car is different. But 90% of your vehicles, they are under the dash. They are on the driver's side. And they are a little gray connector about that big. Now, that being said, if you have a car that was made before 1996, you have what's called Onboard Diagnostics Phase 1, which is OBD1. For that, there's a special procedure with a special pin where there's a service link connector, an SLC, not a DLC. Service link connectors have to be bridged. Turn your key on and you count the engine light flashes, and that will give you DTCs on the criteria of what's happening under the hood. Those systems were very, very limited. That was when the emissions standpoint for computer-controlled ignition and computer-controlled fuel delivery were in its infancy. That being said, any car 96 or newer has onboard diagnostics phase deuce. That means you have a DLC diagnostic link connector. That connector, when you plug your scan tool in, talks to the vehicle's computer when the key is in the run position with the engine off. You hit scan and you look for any kind of temporary codes or permanent codes. We will show you how to do that. But to start this off, we are going to get in the car. We're going to see if the check engine light is on once we start it. And we're going to go for a quick test run right down the road here and back. We're going to be feeling for brakes. We're going to be feeling for any kind of low speed vibrations. We're going to be feeling for any kind of vehicle pull. We're going to be listening for any kind of squeaks or rattles. We're going to be looking at how much power the car has. Does it bog down? Does it take right off? We're going to be looking at how you know, much brake pedal travel we have. Do we have any squeaky brakes? Do we have any noises, any creaks, any suspension bonks or anything? So that being said, I'm gonna get my cameraman Malachi here to hop in the back seat. Me and Willie are gonna get in the front seat, and we are gonna go for our test drive. And as an added bonus, when we get back, I will show you what is under the tarp. Hop in, guys. Oh, we left some of our detailer in here. All right. First thing you're going to want to do when you get in the car, sit behind your wheel. Notice the cleanliness of the vehicle. Notice the smell of the vehicle. Does it smell like stinky feet and vomit? Or is it clean, presentable, and does the vehicle look like it's been well maintained like this one? Okay, if it's been well maintained, the next thing we do is put the key in the ignition, turn it to a run position, make sure our dash lights work and our gauges work. We're going to be taking this vehicle through a drive cycle, which means from cold to normal operating temperature and then off. When we come back, the vehicle will have ran all of its criteria, because it takes data from several sensors, and once it meets certain criteria, like operating temperature and that kind of thing, it'll start reading in what's called closed loop. When you're cold, you're in open loop. That's when you can set a DTC. So it's always good to check a car after it's been driven from a cold start. So let's start our vehicle. Our lights work, our gauges work. First things off, what do you guys hear?
Sounds decent. Sounds healthy.
This car doesn't have a performance exhaust. Why does it sound like that?
Never mind, I know why now. It's old and leaky and...
The exhaust is leaking. We know that. That's going to be a later fix. Right now we're covering maintenance. Notice that your check engine light is not lit. The door light goes out when you put the door on. Our parking brake is set. Put our foot on the brake, release the parking brake. That light goes out. We buckle our safety belt. Safety belt goes out. Now, without the car being under a load, still in park, my foot on the brake, we're going to check the air conditioning. Mainly because it's hot out. But you also want to see if it blows cold, because there are certain maintenance items that are due at certain intervals that are attached to that system. Your cabin air filter, for instance. If you're not getting a lot of airflow, your cabin air filter could be clogged. Not the condenser, but the evaporator could be clogged with mold. You want to smell. Make sure that the system doesn't have any weird smells. You don't smell any Freon. You don't smell any musty odor like mold or anything. In this case, we know the AC system in this vehicle is healthy. Next, you're going to want to really listen. Turn your AC blower down. Now we have a slight belt noise. Whenever the compressor cycles, you'll hear a squeak. You hear that squeaky? We're going to take a look at our belts, and I'm going to show you how to quiet that down. What happens is the belt gets glazed and it slips when it's under a load. But we can take care of that real simple. We're also I'm going to show you how to measure belt deflection to see if the belt's loose or if it's just glazed. Put the vehicle in reverse. Oh, we felt it go into gear. We know we got transmission. Let's let
it
her go.
Actually idles down this time.
Well, we fixed that already. We didn't record it, but we fixed it. Let's back up. Make sure our brakes work. Yep, they work.
For the most part.
Okie dokie. We're good.
Real good.
Now we're going to put it in drive, and we're going to start our test drive. We're going to be quick with it. We let it idle a little bit. When you have an older car, you always want to let it idle in park for a little while before you go throwing it in gear and just driving. It gives it a chance to warm up. The internals of the engine and transmission have a chance to warm up and expand, and it has a chance to really get those fluids going, and you're not starting off in a cold start with no oil up on top of your motor and just taking off down the road. That causes excessive wear. We have second gear, nice smooth shift. We're going to be going uphill. We're in third gear. Feel if the car stutters, if it squeaks, rattles. We don't hear no squeaks, no rattles. Suspension feels okay. We're going over some humps and some bumps. Coming to a stop sign from 30 mile an hour. Start applying our brakes. Brakes don't squeal, car stops appropriately. Decent pedal travel. You don't want your pedal sinking to the floor. That's not good. It's going down here past the cornfield, and what we're going to do is we're going to make a left, and we're going to come back up by the cemetery and go back home. We're not necessarily worried about speed or anything like that at this point. We just want to make sure that the check engine light doesn't come on. We take the car from cold to warm, operating temperature. We want to make sure it's not overheating. We want to make sure our gauges work. We want to make sure that our AC or heating system works. HVAC is a term that you'll hear a lot, which is heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Your vehicle has the same HVAC type system that you have in your home. Only thing is your house doesn't have wheels. Or if you're poor, maybe it does. I don't know. Mine doesn't. It's basically, your car is a house on wheels. You have all the amenities. You have heat, you have air conditioning. You have nice, comfortable seats to sit in. Like you have a comfortable couch in your house.
Hello, doggy.
You have music for entertainment. Some cars have TVs in them.
This one does.
It's basically a home away from home to make you as comfortable from getting from point A to point B. So you want to look at this as if you were doing home maintenance. Your home air conditioning system has a filter, so does your car air conditioning system. Some of them do, some of them don't. Your earlier models don't. Your later models do, depending on how well made they are, depending on how cheap they are. This one had one. It was bad. We already replaced it when we recharged and evac the AC system. We vacuumed it down, which means we bought it to where it was no air in the system. There was no freon in the system. And it held a deep vacuum. We were at something like 40 or 50 inches of mercury, which is like 450, 500 microns. And it held. We turned the AC vacuum pump off and it held. Then we went ahead and we injected the proper amount of oil based on what we recovered in the machine. And then we injected the proper R134A. Our AC system blows cold. Our fan operates on all functions. There is one problem with the heater control unit. The cable that controls the positioning of your vent output, like your defrost to your feet, the clip in here is broken and the whole sheath of the cable is moving instead of just the sheath staying still and the cable moving to the different positions. I'll show you how to fix that in another video. Right now we have completed our test drive and our car seems to be functioning well. I'm going to take a minute here to offer a safety note, okay? Our driveway is not 100% level. We are on a slight hill going backwards. In this position, giving the angle in which we are set, we are going to be jacking up the rear of the vehicle first with the front wheels chucked from the back. Then we are going to raise the front of the vehicle up. We are going to be putting jack stands under the rear axle portion of the vehicle because it's a solid beam. There are points on the pinch weld that you can use if you prefer, and there's a way to jack it up by the pinch weld that's not exactly where the jack should go without damaging the pinch weld. I'm going to cover all of this once we exit the vehicle and go to raise it. Make sure you're in park. Make sure your parking brake is set. I want to say a word about putting your vehicle in park. I see so many people do this. They pull up, they stop, look down there, and they do this. And they let off the brake, and the car is sitting in park, resting on the transmission. There is a piece of plastic in the transmission about the size of the tip of my pinky. And that is all that is holding this vehicle. I'm going to show you now the proper way to secure your vehicle when you park it to where you don't risk breaking that parking paw. You're in drive, you just pulled into your parking spot and you're stopped. Put the vehicle in neutral with your foot on the brake. Pull your parking brake until you just feel it grab. It should grab between 3 and 5 clicks if it's drum and 7 to 10 clicks if it's disc. So we have drum, we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Parking brake is set. The way to test that, leave it in neutral and take your foot off the brake. You'll feel the drum grab with the parking brake set. Put your foot back on the brake and then place the car in park. Right now the car is held by the parking brake and your parking paw is your backup. Should this brake fail, the parking paw will grab the car. Do not ever leave it just rest on the parking paw. You want to have 2 points of contact securing your vehicle at all times, especially when you're raising it. When you're raising it, it should be 3. It should be in park, or if it's a manual first gear, it should have the parking brake set. And if you're lifting it up on stands, you should always have 1 or more wheels chucked. That being said, do what I do at your own risk. Let's exit the vehicle. Let's introduce you to some of the tools you're going to need. First off, we're going to roll down our driver's side window all the way because our key is going to be in our ignition. We're then going to pop the hood, but we're not going to open it yet. I forgot to take the rag off the front license plate. Whoops. All right. Now to introduce you to some of the tools you're going to need. Now I know not everybody has a tool cart. I know not everybody has $1,000 to spend. But you can do this with a simple jack that'll cost you 40 bucks at your local parts store. You can do this with a 1/2-inch drive lug wrench. I'm going to show you how to do that. And you can do it by buying 4 jack stands. Each set costs you 25 bucks. So for a total of about 100, 150 bucks, you can get everything that you need to lift that car up. Get a cheap scanner, because that's what we're going to look at next. We're going to check for any codes that may have been set, soft or hard. We are going to go over some of the measuring tools that we're going to be needing, and we're going to service one specific system this time around to kind of give you an idea of what's involved when you're servicing a car. Willie, you want to help me by removing some of these jack stands? We'll put them in front of the car and behind the car. Red ones are going to go in the front, blue ones are going to go in the rear.
Now notice the name of this one. If you see that name, run far away from it.
They make good tools, but they don't make good car parts. Get yourself something that's at least 1.5 tons or more. These are all 2-ton jack stands. Most of your jack stands are 2 tons. The water you see on the ground is from us running the air conditioning system. What happens is the air conditioning condenser basically takes a gas, converts it to a liquid. It goes through your AC system being pumped by your compressor into your evaporator. It goes from a liquid to a gas and cycles back through. The water from your evaporator, which is from the humidity in the air, it condenses and goes out a weep hole in the bottom of your dash, leaving the little puddle you see on the ground. Nothing is leaking, it's just water from the air. There. Now to reveal some of the tools that you may want to get. I've acquired these over time. I don't expect you to run out and buy all this at once, so don't be intimidated by me having all this. This was acquired over many years of being a professional mechanic.
Or unless you have daddy's money.
Don't let Willie touch your stuff, he breaks it.
How do you get tough tools? Notice how they all say USA on them. Key pack.
Oh, cool. Yeah. You're going to need a decent jack. I went to Harbor Freight. I bought their 1.5 ton series. This jack has never let me down. I've owned several of them. A couple of them came up missing. I left them on job sites and things like that because I did mobile repair. They're cheap. They're anywhere from 80 to 110 bucks. To me, that's cheap for a good jack like this. And it's very reliable and very sturdy. It's never let me down. Let's get this in front of our car. We're not jacking it up yet. We're just positioning our tool. The next thing we're going to want to do before we even open the hood, now that we got our jack stands in position and our jack, we're going to grab our cheap handy dandy scan tool. This gives you codes, but it does not tell you what the codes mean. If you have a little more expensive one, it might say it has a P0507. This one won't tell you what a P0507 means. On most of your cars, it's a high idle problem, which is a symptom that's affected by another system's failure. This scan tool will not tell you that. A more expensive one will. A more expensive one will also give you what's called freeze data. Basically, the parameters that the car was under, the load, coolant temperature, oil pressure, throttle position, vehicle speed, RPM, all that. It'll take a snapshot of that when the code sets. And that data is used in the repair process during the diagnostic procedure portion. Let's go scan our car. Now, this vehicle happens to be a 2005, as we all know, Nissan Sally. She's a 2005 Nissan Sentra. My code reader does Asian and American vehicles. I don't mess around with European vehicles. I don't like them. I won't touch an Audi or a Volkswagen. I'm kind of scared of them. BMW. No. You've never seen me work on a Mercedes. Underneath it here, let me see my camera here. Underneath it here, we have a little thing called a diagnostic port right there. That is where you will plug this guy into.
Which is the OBD port from earlier.
Which is the OBD port that I was talking about earlier. It's also called a DLC, a diagnostic link connector. Once that's in, there's no on off on this scan tool. We simply turn the key to the run position. One click is ACC. We're not going to start our car. It's just in the run position. Then we're going to hit read. And it's going to go through all of the car systems. It can scan up to 144 systems at one time. And when it's done, it'll tell you DTCs and how many of them you have and what they are, if any. 0 codes. MIL off, which is your malfunction indicator light. Your check engine light is off, which it is. Your monitors have been met. 0, 7 readiness codes, which is good. Your misfires, none detected. Your fuel, these are the systems that it's reading. Your cam position, your catalyst, which is your converter, your evaporative emission system, your O2 sensor, your O2 sensor heater, and that's it. What we're going to do, scroll back up to the top, turn our key off, all the way off, and we're going to unplug our scan tool, and our health check is fine. The computer's not picking up any kind of malfunctions in any of the vehicle systems that are computer controlled or related. Your emission systems in this car is fine. Your electronic fuel delivery in this car is fine. Your car's ignition system, as far as any kind of misfires or needing spark plugs, is fine. We're lucky this vehicle only has 85,000 miles on it. One of the reasons why this paint looks so good. Now we're going to come around, we're going to put our scan tool back. And we're going to open our hood. You want to set that in there, Will? Yeah. Okay. Now we got our hood open. Now remember I told you before how this vehicle is on a slant? The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to raise the back end up, which is going to put this vehicle resting on its transmission. The reason I'm doing that is because if I raise the front up and then I go around the back with the jack and I go to raise the rear up, the only thing holding this car in place is these jack stands. I don't want it to roll back that way. So if I raise the rear up first and I secure the front or the rear first by putting the jacks under the rear axle, then I can come around here and safely jack up the front while having somebody monitor the position of the rear jack stands to make sure the car is not tilting that way. It's more likely to roll that way than it is to tilt that way. So we're going to start by jacking up the rear first, placing the car on its transmission, and then once we get the front up, we'll go back inside the car and I'll show you what to do next. We're going to get down on the ground with our jack. Okay. Now you see this right here? You don't want to jack it up by this. This is your trunk floor pan. We have a solid beam rear axle. That's what we're going to be raising the car up by. So the suspension in this case is going to stay loaded. So we're going to take our jack, we're going to make sure it's righty tighty, so that we got, oil going to the piston as we pump. And we're going to, in the middle, raise her up by her solid beam. Once we know we're on there, we start pumping and raising her up. We're going to raise her up pretty high because I'm fat. And, oh, watch yourself, Kai. Watch your head. You gotta go over that way.
Mainly me.
Now we're going to go around the side of the car and get the jack stand. You don't want to have any parts of your body under the car unless absolutely necessary during this stage. We're going to raise them up as high as we can get them. And we're going to put them as close to the outskirts to the wheel as we can get them, but still give us room to work within the wheel. We got that one set. Your owner's manual will also tell you that there are specific lift points in this vehicle, but some vehicles have more than one.
That's how they
Okay, and when you set this down, you don't want to set it down hard, you want to set it down easy, and you want to get the hell out of the way. So it's real easy. Turn your jack handle counterclockwise slowly and let her down on your jack stands. Really soft, just like that. And all the way down. Now we're gonna raise our front. With my partner back here, walking the jack stands at their feet because we don't want it tilting and the car falling off the jack stands. So let's go back around the front. Now you want to be really extra careful when you're lifting by the front. You have your condenser, you have your radiator,
and
you have your engine oil pan, you have your engine trans pan.
and subframe.
All this sits on a cradle that has a T. See this motor mount right here? There is a T, that silver thing. There's a T that runs all the way back and across. That's the part you want to jack up at, where that subframe is. So we're gonna get down here and get under the front of the car. We're gonna jack all the way down. I'm gonna be laying on that side. And look, lo and behold, there it is. Right here's the piece our subframe's bolted to. There's a little bit of corrosion, but it's still there. And it's in place with all of its bolts. And we can lift it by it. Well, I want you to watch those jack stands. They're not tilting good. Okay. Now we're going to put our front jack stands around these points right here. We have toe points that are built into the subframe here and over there. So we're going to raise our stand up to, it looks like, four or five. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. Now the front needs to be a little bit higher than 5, and our jack is fully extended. So I'm going to show you what to do about that. Let me get over here, and we're going to raise this guy here to 5. 1, 2, watch this, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's not level.
Does this car have an infestation?
Of what, bugs?
Roach.
No.
Because there's one crawling around.
Oh, we're not the only ones that live here. All right. So we have 6 on this side, 5 on that side. Yeah. Let's lower it down very slow.
Yeah, slow, right?
Now let's look and see and make sure that our car is somewhat level. And if it's not, I'm going to show you a quick way you can get it level. Now,
Looks level to me just by the
if you stand back here and you look at the front of the car, that one's on 6, that one's on 5. So we got to get that up one more click and raise the overall height of the car a little bit more in the front. Because if you come over here, stand to the side, You will notice, because we have our rear suspension loaded, that the vehicle is jacked up from the rear and is sitting higher in the back than it is the front. Those front wheels are hanging. We're looking at this in parallel to the ground. So we want to get this up to where this whole bar is level with the ground. So follow me. Or actually I'll use my helper's legs. Top box of the black toolbox that I have in there, it's like a bench. You'll see some blocks of wood. Go grab me the thickest block you got. Now let's go discuss some tools. Today we're going to be discussing vehicle maintenance. I know everybody's going to have a toolbox like this. I know everybody's going to have a tool cart. Not everybody's been in a technological position, or whatever you want to call it, for 20 plus years. I understand. It's okay. First thing you're going to need is a rag. Because once you get the car level, we're going to start checking fluids. We're going to start looking at maintenance items like filters, wiper blades, fluid levels, fluid conditions. Start checking the hoses for any kind of wear. Start looking for obvious leaks, like in your cooling system, which is the car's radiator, upper and lower hoses, and your heater core hoses. We're going to be covering all that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our car level, because a level car is a happy car, especially when it comes to checking fluid levels. Now, Wills, I want you to let me know when I'm level, bud, while keeping an eye on those jack stands. We're going to go in here to the same spot, but we're going to put a block of wood on our jack, and we're going to put the center of this wood, which is the center of our jack, on that cross member. And we're going to raise it on up. And that's going to give us an extra couple inches. So you want to make sure that the center of this cross member is still in the center of your pad for your initial jack. You're going to make sure that your wood is centered. If you have to, get a smaller piece of wood that's the same thickness, and it'll help you see that that is centered on the jack. And then you turn the pad of your jack, you make sure that your jack is centered to the cross member. And then when you raise her up, make sure that it contacts as close to the center as possible. Beautiful. Now we're going to raise her up a little more. She tilting back there?
No, not yet.
Is it level? Not yet. All right. Oh shit.
Oh. Yeah, that one kind of shifted.
Is it still under the rear beam?
Yeah, it is, but
Go look at it for me.
it does not like it's stuck.
7.
Oh, yeah, she's still underneath the rear beam, but she's sitting on the axle.
6, 7. Okay, we're even up front.
Yeah, you're pretty much even back here.
Can you move that jack stand that it like kind of popped on? Wiggle it.
It's seated right now. So that was just, it's seating itself.
So it's just leveling itself out?
Yeah.
All right, now we're gonna lay down here. We're gonna get as far away from this vehicle as possible. Watch your head, Will.
Clear.
And slowly lower our car ever so gently. All right, make sure that everything's contacting back there.
Judging by that noise, I would say everything is.
Wiggle your jack stands, make sure they're under there good. All right, this other one.
Solid, and I think that one over there is solid.
I know these front ones are solid, so we're good. Remove your jack, because we're done with it for now. And we are going to remove our block of wood and put our rag up here. It's always good to use an ounce of prevention to prevent a pound of cure. Now you can see our car is high enough to work on, and you can also see that it's level. If you want to, watch yourself, Will. You can come around here, and we can kind of shake her and move her. You know, just kind of side to side. Don't break nothing. Make sure there's no give. Make sure there's no wobble. Give her a good shakedown. Make sure she's supported. That being said, next, we have to gain access to certain parts of the vehicle that are in the wear. We know about the hoses. We know about the filters. You know about our fluids. It's all topside stuff. I'm talking about the important stuff. Tires, tread wear, it's a big one. Major expense, but they have to be kept in good shape. There's two ways to measure those. I'm going to show you the cheap way. I'll show you the accurate way. I prefer the accurate way. We're also going to be looking at brakes. Brakes are not as complicated as they seem. And I'm going to show you how to maintain them to where you have even wear and you maximize your brake life. All right, we're going to be using some chemicals. All right, people often forget about their battery. Corrosion builds up on your battery terminals. It looks yellow and gunky. Treat it with a cleaner. Scrub it with a little wire brush. I have one for a drill. If you don't have one for a drill, you can use this little rinky-dink thing or this guy. Clean your terminals. Once they're clean, rinse them off with either water or brake cleaner, and then spray them with a little bit of dielectric grease or battery protectant. Do not goop this stuff on. It can seep down between your battery terminal end and the connector and cause a loose connection. Less is more. We have our brake cleaner. Some people love using this stuff. I'm going to show you the right way to do it with soap and water. It's a real simple way. It doesn't dry as fast, but while the back brakes are drying, because that's what you're going to use this on, we're going to focus on inspecting and cleaning the front brake system, which is your discs.
Soap and water is a lot less flammable.
And soap and water is not flammable and it's environmentally friendly. So with a brush, like our toothbrush or our detail brush right here, I'll show you how to clean, lubricate, and adjust your rear drum brakes, which is mostly your parking brake. Front brakes are a little different. They're your discs. They're the ones that have the pads and the calipers. Some cars have rear discs. This vehicle happens to have rear shoes, which is drum. Not many cars have that. Some still do. Some of them have both, rear disc and drum. This one just has the rear drum. So we're going to focus on what Nissan Sally needs. Your vehicle may be different. Like I said, look at your owner's manual, go to your local manufacturer dealer, and get their recommendations, especially on fluids and maintenance schedule. Safety items. You won't see me wear these often unless I'm cutting and sparks are flying, which usually means the brain dead mechanic's in trouble. You see me breaking these out, you see me breaking out a torch, you see Willie holding the torch, you see me holding the cutting wheel, you know it's gotten bad.
And mine, I'm always wearing glasses.
For you, whenever you're dealing with chemicals, especially around a battery, it's a good idea to wear protective rubber gloves and safety glasses. Proper protective gear is an ounce prevention. It's worth a pound of cure. You get battery acid in your eyes. You get a piece of metal in your eyes. You get chemicals on your hands. They cause cancer. They cause numbness. They can cause nerve damage. And over time, they leak into your bloodstream and cause you to become a little, and you got to be put on nut meds like me. That being said, if you don't want to die in early age, get the proper protective gear for what you're doing. You'll see me wear gloves. You'll see Willie wear gloves. When we were jacking the car up, our hands are a little dirty. They're not necessarily to keep your hands clean, though they do that. They're mainly for protection from chemicals that are under the hood, such as coolant is a certain chemical. It's petroleum-based. Then you have your hydraulic fluids, like your brake fluid, which is hygroscopic and absorbs moisture and also has a high level of copper in it. Then you have your power steering fluid, which is a different type of hydraulic fluid that's meant to operate under constant pressure. We'll be discussing those fluid intervals and how to change them on this model. Today, we're going to be focusing on tires and brakes. Let's start out with the tires now that we've covered our safety equipment.
Well, there's also one thing left with the safety equipment. Now, some of you elderly mechanics out there, you will see them sometimes either use a creeper or elbow pads and knee pads.
Because there's a lot of getting down and up.
Yeah.
For that, Will, can you go grab my stool? Because I am elderly. I got gray in my beard. You know, that's another reason why I raised the car up so high. Now, let's go around to the inside of the car so that way we can prep it to get the wheels off. Now, we started at the back when we were jacking this up to make sure it was secure. With the parking brake still on, sometimes you can break the lug nuts free and get the wheels off. But in order to get the drums off, you got to release your parking brake. I have a helper. So he is going to be in the car holding his foot on the brake the entire time that I'm breaking the lugs loose. Notice I'm only breaking them loose a couple of spins. Then I'll go around with my impact and I'll run the nuts off. I'm going to lay these hubcaps face up so they don't get scratched. Put the lug nuts back in the holes. All right, buddy. Let's go ahead and release the parking brake now that all 4 wheels are off the ground.
Well, shouldn't you leave that on because you need to break the lug nuts loose?
That's why I have my helper.
Ah.
Hop on in there.
Yay.
Now, what needs to happen now, there's 2 main types of lug nut sizes. Your 2 main types of lug nut sizes that you're going to see on most of your foreign and domestic cars are a 19 and a 21. Honda uses a 22, but it's very rare that you will find this on anything other than an Odyssey or a Ridgeline. Most of the Hondas are 19. Nissan, Toyota, some of your Fords are 21 millimeter. With that being said, this Nissan is a 21. Compacts are 19. And we're going to start with the wheel closest to the master cylinder. Now all we're doing with this is we are just breaking the lugs loose. So you hop in, put your other foot in, because you're going to start the car. Start the car. Okay. Now I just want you to hold the brakes so the wheel don't turn. Now that's the gas. There you go. Right there, just there. That's all you gotta do. What happens is the car supplies vacuum to this booster. His rod on his brake pedal goes through this booster into this, which is called your master cylinder. That pushes fluid down these lines to your calipers, into your wheel cylinders, and it squeezes the drum or the rotor and prevents the wheel from turning. The reason I had him start the car is because with vacuum it's a little bit easier, it has to apply less pressure. The battery stays charging because the brake lights are going to be lit. Let's back up and start. Like all your nuts and bolts, lefty loosey, righty tighty.
Your Mopar guys, some are reverse thread.
Older Mopars. Hold the wheel straight. 1, 2. Some of these are tight. That's 2. 3. And 4. Now, I've never serviced this vehicle before. Never had these off. This one right here feels really, really wonky to me. I do not know why that seems so tight coming off. He said he had a stud put on here because Firestone cross-threaded it, put it on with an impact, and didn't torque his wheels. I have a torque wrench and I torque all my lug nuts. 21s and 22s are 100 foot-pound. 19s are 80 foot-pound. This one right here is not going to come off with my impact, so I'm going to take it off via my wrench here, my torque wrench, my breaker bar. Cheap tools, we're doing this on a budget, I know. I also want to inspect these threads before I take this wheel all the way off. If I feel any more binding, like this thing's going to break, there we go, she's loose enough. Come on back here, break these loose. Same method, you're going to pull towards the front of the car. Let's go turn it counterclockwise. That's 1, that came loose nice. 2, that came loose nice. 3, that came loose nice. These were hand torqued. These were torqued to proper spec, 80 foot-pound. So we're on the other side. Step on the brake wheel. Harder. Step on the brake and pull the emergency brake up. All right. There we go. Once you get them loose, move on to your next one. That's why it helps to have power tools. My heart goes out to you if all you have is hand tools. But if you own a car, you're going to want to invest in a good set of power tools. Hand tools are good for certain applications. All right, well, take off your parking brake. Lift up, push your button in. There now. Take your foot off the main brake. Turn your key off to the off position all the way. See if it comes out. Okay. I'm gonna lay it
Usually somewhere up here.
with the window down, of course. I prefer putting them in the lock. All right, buddy, thank you. All right. Now we got them loose, but we didn't take anything off. Here's why. I'm fat, I'm out of shape, and doing things by hand just ain't my gig no more. I got the power tools. My heart goes out to you if you don't. I said you can buy all these.
But everything's a
Harbor
lot
Freight.
better when it's done by hand. You don't get the same satisfaction with a power tool.
21 socket, 1/2 inch drive. They're already broke loose. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. Okay, this is why this lug nut was so rough coming off of this stud. Let's lay our hubcap up here.
That's a lot of fruit.
Look at this. See those little fibers here?
That's cross threading.
Somebody started to cross thread this and then used the tap to straighten it out and then put the lug nut on. That was cross threaded a little
Grabbing
bit.
and squeaking.
Hear that grabbing and squeaking? That's rust. This is the kind of stuff you want to treat with penetrating fluid while you're in here. Now, you're gonna be like, hold on, my lug nuts are off, my wheel ain't coming off. That's because of the corrosion that's in here. So let's set our lug nuts inside of our hubcap right here, right here, right here, and right here where we know where they go. Now, I know some guys will kick the hell out of this wheel. They'll beat on it. Here's what you do. You turn the wheel so the front of it is facing farther out. This is why you need your key and have access to your key. Because while you're going to get in, you're going to turn the ignition to ACC, 1 click forward, and you're going to turn the wheel like you're making a left-hand turn. So that way the outside of the wheel faces it. Because you're going to run into this, no matter what. There's going to be corrosion, especially on an older car. Remember, in, 1 click forward to ACC, that'll unlock your wheel. You might have to wiggle the wheel to get it to turn in the ignition. What? Fake. All right, now turn the wheel this way. 1 click forward. Is it? Let me go show him. He's still learning too. See, sometimes you run into trouble. What you do is, your key's in your ignition.
There it goes. 1
1 click forward.
And then
And then you want to turn the wheel like you're making a left-hand turn towards me. Okay, hop on out. I told you you have to wiggle the wheel while you're turning the key to get it to pop, because what happens is that rests on the steering lock. Now, with the wheel and the tie rod, turn all the way in, the front of the wheel out. So you're coming to get your hammer.
Oh no.
Some people grab this bad boy. This is a dead blow. I prefer the rubber hammer.
A lot less harsh.
This is a lot less harsh, especially if you're dealing with alloy wheels. We're dealing with steel, but nonetheless, this has sand in it. And when it hits, that sand flies forward and hits it again. So we're gonna come down here. We're gonna lay next to the car. We're not gonna lay under the car. We're gonna lay next to the car. And you wanna keep as many of your limbs out from under the car as you can. You don't wanna hit your caliper. You don't wanna hit your ball joint and your lower control arm. You don't wanna hit your CV axle. You wanna hit the lip of the rim here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna, that's it, and we'll catch it. Roll it on out of there, bud. Turn it towards me a little bit and just slide her on out. There you go. Now, for safety reasons, look at that rust. You're gonna run into some stuff here.
No, that was extreme pitting.
Yeah, that's why the brakes are doing what they're doing.
Being spongy.
Yep. And also grinding. Now, for extra safety, watch out, bud. We're gonna take our wheel and we're gonna slide it underneath the car. Right here by where your jack point is. You want it by the jack point and under the actual frame or subframe of the car. This is part of the unibody construction. This is where you would normally jack it up. That comes down, it's gonna come down the wheel. It's gonna save your ass, it's gonna save the car's ass. We're gonna cut to brake. I'm gonna do the rest of the wheels. Once I get them off, I'll be right back to you.